A merchant ship sails into port with full supplies, warm food still on the table, and absolutely no one aboard. On December 4, 1872, the brigantine Mary Celeste was spotted drifting off the coast of Portugal. The crew of the merchant vessel Dei Gratia spotted her first, sails torn, rigging slack, clearly abandoned. But here's what makes this case so unsettling. The ship herself was completely intact. No fire, no visible damage, no sign of struggle. The captain's log was there, the cargo was there, and yet the 13 people aboard, Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 10 crew members, had vanished without a trace. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves with ghost ships and sea monsters, and believe me, people absolutely did, let's look at what the Dei Gratia's captain actually found when he boarded. The Mary Celeste's helm was lashed. The sails were partially set. In the captain's cabin, there was a sewing machine on the table, needles still threaded. Below deck, food sat in the galley. The crew's belongings were untouched in their quarters. This wasn't a ship that had weathered a catastrophe. This was a ship that had been abandoned, methodically, deliberately. The official investigation concluded that the crew had panicked over something, a minor leak perhaps, or a misread of the barometer, an abandoned ship in the lifeboat. That lifeboat was never found. The theory was that they rowed off into the Atlantic, got caught in rough weather and drowned. Simple, explainable, case closed. But there's a problem with that story, and it's the kind of detail that keeps maritime historians awake at night. Captain Briggs was an experienced sailor, 17 years at sea. He wasn't the type to panic over a minor leak. His wife and child were aboard. Would he really risk their lives in a small boat on open water unless the ship was actively sinking? The Mary Celeste wasn't sinking. There was no water in the hold, no fire in the cargo. The cargo itself, 701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was perfectly preserved. Why would a captain abandon a valuable ship and valuable cargo unless he believed the danger was imminent and catastrophic? Some historians have suggested the alcohol barrels were leaking. Fumes from industrial alcohol are toxic, even explosive in certain concentrations. If Briggs thought the cargo was about to ignite, he might have ordered an evacuation to the lifeboat, a temporary measure, he thought, until help arrived. But then the weather turned. The distance grew. The lifeboat was never seen again. It's a plausible theory, not proven but plausible. And it's far more reasonable than what the newspapers printed. Because once the Mary Celeste drifted into public consciousness, the story transformed. Journalists called it the ghost ship. Writers invented sea monsters. A fictional account published in the Cornhill magazine years later claimed the crew had gone mad, that there was blood on the deck, that mutiny had erupted. None of that was true, but the myth stuck. It's still the myth people believe today. The Mary Celeste became legend. The facts became optional. The ship herself lived on. After the incident, the Mary Celeste was sold and resold, passed through dozens of owners over the next decades. She was renamed several times. She was used for smuggling, for hauling cargo, for any number of ordinary voyages. She became, in effect, cursed by her own fame. Insurers were suspicious of her. Sailors were reluctant to board her. By 1884, she was deliberately wrecked off Haiti. Scuttled for the insurance money. Even in her final moments, the Mary Celeste couldn't escape the shadow of December 4th, 1872. What we know with certainty is this: 13 people stepped off a seaworthy vessel in the middle of the Atlantic and were never seen again. The ship was found. The crew wasn't. No bodies ever washed ashore. No distress signal was ever received. The lifeboat vanished as completely as the people in it. The Mary Celeste became a floating monument to an inexplicable loss, not because the disappearance was supernatural, but because it was so utterly ordinary in its execution and so utterly mysterious in its cause. Captain Briggs made a decision that morning. We'll never know if it was right. We only know it was final. The truth of the Mary Celeste lies somewhere between the rational and the inexplicable, and that's precisely why it endures. We want mysteries to stay mysterious. We want evidence to contradict itself just enough to keep us guessing. The Mary Celeste gave us both: a perfect ship, an impossible disappearance. And more than 150 years later, we're still standing on the dock, looking out at the water, asking the same question: what happened out there? If you want to uncover more cases where the facts refuse to cooperate with the narrative, subscribe. There's a new unsolved mystery every week. Subscribe, there's a new unsolved mystery every week.